Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at a special maths topic called square and cube numbers, and also we're going to be looking at something called indices and square roots. So I've put some pictures on the bottom here to help you guys try and think about what this topic might be about. So I've put a Rubik's Cube. That obviously has something to do with cube numbers. I've also put the symbol here, which is a square root symbol. I've also put a question mark because some of you might not know what that symbol means. So moving on, what are square numbers? So a square number is when you multiply a number by itself. The result you get is a square number. So this might seem a little bit confusing, so let's go through it. 4 squared equals 16. 4 times 4 equals 16. So you're multiplying the same number again. 5 squared equals 25. 5 times 5 is 25. You're multiplying the same number again. So you're multiplying 2 of the same numbers. So let's look at something a little bit more complex. 100 squared equals 10,000. 100 times 100 equals 10,000. So how are square numbers represented? Square numbers are shown by inserting a little 2 in the top right corner because you're multiplying 2 numbers together. So this is asking us to do 4 squared, which is 4 times 4, which is 16. So if we have a look, this is asking us to do 5 times 5. This is asking us to do 11 times 11. And this is asking us to do 1 times 1. So remember, don't get confused by the little 2. This means times the number by itself. Don't double it. Some people tend to do 4 times 2 and say the answer is 8 because they get confused. So if we just rub out everything here. So you might be thinking as to why these numbers are called square numbers. Well, they actually form a square. So let's take a look. 9 is a square number. 3 times 3 equals 9. You're multiplying 3 by itself. So I've got 9 squares on the right, or I've got 9 blocks on the right. So let's try making a square with 3 blocks in length and 3 blocks in width. 3 times 3 is 9. So I've got my 3 blocks in length. 1, 2, 3. Got my 3 blocks in width. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we can now see that a square has been formed from 9 blocks or little squares. So let's try making a square with another square number in the same way. So I've got some more examples on this page here. So I've got a square that's made up of 4 little blocks. So that's obviously 2 squared because 2 times 2 is 4. And notice how, since it's 2 squared, it's 2 blocks in length and 2 blocks in width. Here I've got 3 squared again, which is 9, and it's 3 blocks in length and 3 blocks in width. I've got 1 squared, which is 1, since 1 times 1 is 1. That's 1 block in length and 1 block in width. Can you see any pattern? So what do you notice? I noticed that the length and width of the square is the same as the number you squared. So we squared the number 3. So when we do a diagram, our square is 3 blocks in length and 3 blocks in width. We squared the number 1, so our diagram is 1 block in length and 1 block in width. So if we square the number 16, which should get you around 256, I think. If we make a square out of 256 blocks, that's going to be a pretty big square. That's going to be 16 blocks in length and 16 blocks in width. Okay, so let me just rub this out here. Okay, so Have a go. For 11 plus and for Key Stage 2 maths, you are expected to know all of your square numbers off by heart up to 12 squared. This will really help you in maths exams or maths lessons. So here I've just put some of the square numbers below up to 12 squared. And you can maybe print a poster. You can just type in 11 plus or Key Stage 2 square number poster. Or you can just take a piece of paper, write them down and stick it up on your bedroom wall. Whatever way works for you. But make sure you do know these numbers. Okay, so what are cube numbers? Cube numbers are very, very similar to square numbers, but you multiply the number by itself twice. Sound confusing? So let's look at some examples. So 4 cubed equals 64. 4 times 4 times 4 equals 64. You're multiplying 3 4s together. Now this is because a cube has 3 dimensions. You got your length, your width, and your height or depth. A square only has 2 dimensions. That's why you multiply 2 numbers together. You've just got your length and your width. And if we look at another example, 6 cubed is 216. 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. So cube numbers are represented by placing a little 3 in the top right corner. That's because you're multiplying 3 numbers together. So you can see this is very similar to square numbers. So try solving this cube number question below. So what is 9 cubed? Remember, this is just 9 times 9. So type your answer in the comment section below and I'll have a look every day to mark it. So you may need to use a written method. And I've got my little Rubik's Cube again. So why? So similar to square numbers, cube numbers form a cube. That's why we call them cube numbers. So 3 cubed equals 27, since 3 times 3 is 9 and 9 times 3 is 27. And I've got a cube on the left, and this is made up of smaller white cubes. It has 27 white cubes, since we've got 3 layers and each layer has 9 cubes. 9 times 3 is 27. So notice how all the dimensions equal to 3. The length is 3 cubes. If we have a look with my annotation, 1, 2, 3. The width is 3 cubes. 1, 2, 3. And the depth or the height is 3 cubes. 1, 2, 3. So we have another pattern here. So say if we are doing, I don't know, 5 cubed. 5 cubed is 125. So if we make a cube out of 125 smaller cubes, then it would be 5 cubes in length, 5 cubes in depth, and 5 cubes in width. So let's move on. So indices. So an index, or the plural which is indices, is just the number that appears in the top right-hand corner above a larger number. So if we look back in our slides, this 3 here, that's an index. So if we move forward, indices aren't just limited to 2 or 3 or square and cube numbers. They can be any number. Usually you won't be asked anything less than 5 as an index though. So I've got this question here. So our index is 5 this time. So this time you have to do 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. You have to multiply 5 2's together. This is 32. The answer seems quite small for such a lengthy calculation. So this can also be called 2 to the power of 5. Since we don't call these indices any special numbers like square or cube numbers, we just call them 2 to the power of 5 or 2 to the power of 6 or 4 to the power of 10. You can also say 2 to the power of 2, but most people just say 2 squared. or 2 cubed. So comment down below how you feel about this topic so far, so I can know if I'm teaching this properly. So square roots. We're moving on to our last topic in this PowerPoint. You'll notice that this is quite a short video compared to other topics because there's not really much to learn. It's just a few key points you need to memorize. So this is the square root symbol. If you remember, in my front page of this PowerPoint, I put the symbol. Now we're going to figure out what it means. So it looks a little bit like a tick, but what happens when we put a square number inside? So we put 49, which is a square number. So this means you need to find a number you can square to get 49. So let's have a look. I've got some of my square numbers here. Let's try and see, So let's try and see what number you can multiply by itself to get 49. And I've circled it. It's 7. 7 times 7, or 7 squared, is 49. So the square root of 49 is 7. Now, this is why you need to memorize the first 12 square numbers. And some of you might even want to memorize up to 20, because if you don't memorize it at least to 12, square roots might be a little bit tricky, as you'll have to manually go through each square number. You have to do 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4, 5 times 5, 6 times 6, up until you get 7 times 7. But if you memorize, you'll know straight away that 7 squared is 49. Okay, so I've got my top 5 questions. So now that you have an overall idea of indices and square roots, try these questions. So remember to place your answers in the comment section below so that I can mark them every day. So what is 13 squared? What is 3 to the power of 4? What is the square root of 64? What is 9 cubed? And now for the 5th question, write me your own question about indices and square roots. So please remember to subscribe and click on the like button and comment down any feedback below. Okay, so thank you for watching. Bye.